Welcome to the Meaning Mindset with Rabbi Ron. It's season 2, and today I am honored, I'm thrilled to be joined by Academy Award nominated filmmaker Amy Berg. Amy's known for her fearless documentaries that uncover truth, that elevate what she knows to be unheard but vital voices. Her newest film, It's Never Over, Jeff Buckley, is out now in theaters all across the globe. It explores the life and the legacy of this enigmatic musician, Jeff Buckley. Amy and I talk about her life's work, her incredible library of documentary film, the film industry itself, and in this case, the music that shapes us, the stories that she knows demand to be told, and the artistry that makes her filmmaking breathtakingly beautiful. I'm delighted to have Amy Berg in the studio. Let's join her. So you're home in LA for how long?
Just a few days. I mean, I live in LA,
right,
but I'm just here right now. I've been back and forth from New York this month 3 times. So
I remember when we spoke, I think it was before the summer, and we were talking about when to record this. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this is in line with the movie's premiere. Mm-hmm. You were going to Europe, coming from Europe, going to Denmark. This is all, It's Never Over, Jeff Buckley.
Yes.
And what was the response? I know Sundance, I read and I spoke to you. Mm-hmm. And I heard how sensational the response was to the movie.
Yeah.
Did it just balloon from there?
Well, no, there was definitely a dip. We had a great premiere at Sundance, and I went to Copenhagen and we had a really nice screening at CPH Docs, but we were trying to figure out our sales partners, and we had a number of offers at Sundance, and we had to figure out who the right partner was. And, that took a long time, and the industry is rough right now. The doc industry is rough. And so I've been hearing this from a lot of people, but the deals took months to get done. And the first offer we got was from Universal International, which they'll do the rest of the world. And it still isn't done. It's been 7 months. So it's just crazy. I don't know what the story is, but it's taken a while. So I
know that the industry is kind of everybody I know in the industry, and being in LA, you talk to a lot of people, everybody's saying that it's in a strange state. Somebody said to me, a friend of mine who's a longtime talent agent at CAA, said, it's always cyclical in this industry. We've been through these bumps. He said that at the time of end of COVID and the strike. Do you feel like this is one of these kind of regulating times?
I don't know. I hope so, because it feels like there is a new energy towards independent films and going to see films in the theater. I mean, the streamers took that opportunity of COVID to a whole new level. Yeah, and for sure. People kind of got used to not leaving their house to go see movies. And so I really wanted this film to have a community experience. I wanted it to be in the theaters. And so we got very lucky because we were able to sell it to Magnolia Pictures. HBO will stream it in December, and then sometime in between now and then it'll go out internationally in theaters. But it does feel like there's a bit of a shift. So I hope that that's true, because there's always an agenda with streaming kind of deals. There's always an agenda with the political climate at the time or whatever.
I see.
So making films independently is really kind of exciting, especially right now with a new president, and it's, NPR is being defunded, and, there are a lot of income sources that documentary filmmakers like me have relied on that are kind of being eaten up. So I think we will probably see a little shift, and I think we'll go backwards before we go forwards. And I hope that means the theaters can stay in business.
Yeah, I hope so too. Mm-hmm. There's a theater near us that was closed. We knew it was going to close. The whole shopping center was literally pulverized. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's going to be housing, so that's good. Affordable housing, apartments, great, hopefully. But to see something that we once enjoyed, restaurants and a theater, literally turned to dust. There's now a mountain of dust that was cleared, and that was where we sat and ate and watched movies. Kind of powerful.
Wow. That's where in Agora?
Yeah, in Agora. So you have documentaries that are selling out theaters at a time when film struggled to sell out theaters. I tried to get in, to one of the screenings. And amazing to hear that this film is sold out. Couldn't get in. I hope it's always that way.
I'll get you a ticket.
Oh, thank you. When you made Deliver Us from Evil, your first movie, first documentary, after leaving the world of investigative journalism, CNN, NBC, you switched to a really difficult subject, to great acclaim, Academy Award nomination. And then the rest of your career. I know it's not always as simple as that sounds, but am I right? I think I heard you in a Sundance interview say that 30 years ago, you said, if I make another movie, it's going to be about Jeff Buckley.
It was 20 years ago. And
20,
yes,
okay. That's right.
Yes, it was, what happened was I didn't just leave investigative journalism. I was covering stories about abuse in the Catholic Church at CBS News. And then the person that I produced and wrote for, Drew Griffin, who actually passed away a couple of years ago, he went to CNN. I then was kind of freelancing for both, and I landed an interview with a priest. And the network was like, no, we don't put pedophiles on television. And it was like, so I didn't know I was leaving. I left to make this film, and then I just didn't turn back. But I did, so I kept that door open. I assumed I would maybe go back to my, news investigation producing job. Sure. But after making Deliver Us from Evil, I decided that I wanted to I kind of wanted to give it a real try. So I wanted to stay in the documentary lane. And so I tried to get the rights to this Jeff Buckley film. And it's been it was 10 years of outreach, and then finally she said yes. And so now that's
his mom? His
mother. Mary Guibert is his mother, and she controls the estate. So it is kind of like my whole career, the 20
Amazing.
Years.
So far.
So far, yes.
Wasn't there a story that I read that Brad Pitt also wanted that movie, wanted to do a biopic, went to her
yes.
and got the permission, then it was rescinded?
Not exact. It wasn't. What happened was Brad Pitt actually was a super fan, and he paid to have his whole archive restored. Oh. So he and Mary became close, and then they were developing a scripted film together. It never panned out, but he's even an executive producer on my film because he paid for this whole archive to be restored. And Jeff documented himself a lot, so it's a real tribute to the analog days of the 90s. So it's so great that Brad did that, because that's what I love so much about making this film is that I feel like there's a movement towards the 90s right now with Gen Z at least, and this feels very much like that. It's very tactile.
Oh.
So
I look at your library of work, and there's so much of it. First of all, there's something so beautiful about just seeing your films, just the way you tell a story.
Thank you.
Honestly, I'm just so moved by them. And I feel like you have this deft hand at telling difficult stories. And you also have the willingness that I'll say I can relate to, and I'll tell you what I mean, to go into dark places and to say, I'm going to shine a light there. I feel like that's, if I was to draw a caricature of you, it's somebody with a torch on her head, pointing light. That's also vulnerable, dangerous, uncomfortable, saddening. What's your experience of it? Because you've done so much of this kind of work.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend about this just the other day, who's a teacher, and I was just talking about how I grew up and how I was educated on literature and philosophy that comes from a depth of darkness. And I think that's what, that motivated me in some way, to feel the pain of, Emma and Wuthering Heights and Pip and Socrates, and everything that I learned growing up was talking about how pain can become art.
Right.
And so I haven't formulated this thought fully, but I do think that there is this huge change today because the literature is different in schools. Kids are much more isolated in one way and more connected in other ways. And I just think there's like a huge change right now. But I always migrate towards things I can feel, and I feel people's pain. I'm just very empathetic. I've been like that since I was a kid. And so I guess that kind of takes me somewhere that does put me into a vulnerable position. You're right.
For a long period of time.
Yeah. I mean, I learned, like, after Deliver Us from Evil, I learned how to, like, you know, walk away from it and, like, do some yoga, go for a run. Like, you know, I work it out in my system as much as I can. But in order to tell a good story, you have to always carry, like, your understanding of the emotion. And so I do that. And
how long is the process from you writing a note that says, I want to cover that one day, to delivering it generally? I know it probably varies, but how long are you with the story and the subject?
Well, this
and the
one
darkness
is,
in some cases.
This one was 5 years. I don't feel that I went dark with Jeff. I think I was in a better place, like mentally, to see it from this perspective, that, you know, the newer kind of less pain-ridden perspective. So I just followed his lead the whole time, and it didn't feel dark to me because the music is so soothing in a way. So I don't know if it's but I mean, I've spent the least amount of time I've ever spent on a film is like 2.5 years, and that was really dark. And that was Prophet's Prey, the Warren Jeffs film. Whoa. That voice was like haunting me at night. I had to separate it into 2 edits because there was like the victim story and the survivors, and then there was Warren Jeffs. And I like could not spend a lot of time in the Warren Jeffs edit bay because it was so dark. I mean,
you literally segregated them.
No, I had one upstairs and one downstairs.
Oh, really?
Because it was just like a story that needed to be told with his voice in it, but his voice is so creepy.
Yeah, it is. I watched it. I know. I watched it after watching Deliver Us from Evil, and I thought, oh, God. First of all, that story. And then I think the third of your movies that I saw was, I'm blanking on
West
the name.
Of Memphis?
No, it wasn't. That I saw later.
Janice Little Girl Blue?
No, it was on Marilyn Manson.
Oh, Phoenix Rising.
Phoenix Rising. Mm-hmm. And that was really hard to see.
Yeah, that was pretty much... that was a breaking point for me personally. I had a lot of physical pain after doing that film, but it was meant to be an empowerment piece about the statute in California and Evan Rachel Wood, who is a friend, and I saw what she had been through, and we were trying to like focus on like the future, but we realized as we dipped in that there was no way to tell that story without the past. And speaking of Agora, this is crazy. I remember during the pandemic, I was staying out in Malibu, and I remember there was a call. Somebody did a wellness check at Marilyn Manson. Brian Werner is his name, his house in Hollywood. And I remember driving down Canaan Road home from like a kind of a shoot we did at his house. And I remember thinking he was following me home. It was like, and on that long Canaan highway, I was like in an Airbnb.
Isolated in part, sure.
And I just started really like, there were things that happened on that film that were so crazy. Like my mom, you know my mom, she works with you. My parents my dad is no longer here, but he was still here at the time. And they lived in Woodland Hills. Yeah. And I used to send them stuff over Amazon. And somehow, like, I woke up in the middle of the night and I noticed there were like 5 or 6 emails from Amazon, rentals of videos on Amazon, all horror movies, films that he has talked about being his favorites in my account. And I was so freaked out. I like called my parents because I'm like, my parents' address is on, I was in New York. I was like not anywhere around this. And I thought he was possibly trying to send a message to me because that was kind of a thing that he did with people, with some of his victims. And I remember being so freaked out about that I like changed all my passwords and made everything.
And
like,
do you think that happened?
Yes.
You think
I didn't
somehow
order.
infiltrated?
There's no way I ordered 6 horror films. Yes. I mean, he was sending like meat burgers to one of his victims' house that was a vegan. And like he was doing weird stuff at that time. And so I was pretty sure that happened. And I had never had someone like cross the line to like threaten me personally in a film, even though I've done some kind of crazy films before. But anyway.
But it brings back, first of all, how close it is, how personal it is. And I also think there's something really risky in the best sense and necessarily risky about telling nonfiction, about telling stories in which the people are alive in many cases and are in your world and in your community. Not only, God forbid, that it should come to harm you or scare you, but even the idea that you're trying to get that so perfectly accurate. You're trying to tell a story because these are real people's lives. Of course. That you don't have that same regard, presumably, in fiction.
Of course.
So this is your choice.
Yeah. But then sometimes the transformation in culture from telling one of these stories and seeing people, release their past or seeing people understand and be more kind to a certain community of people is where you find the joy. And I use my work for that. I can't do anything else. I mean, it's too late at this point.
Yeah, you're not going to become a sports journalist at this point.
Well, no, I just love it. I love it. I live for telling stories, and I love I love the whole art of it, editing it, shooting it, meeting new people, understanding new things, learning about a culture. I love all that stuff.
What's the process for somebody who doesn't know it? Do you literally note, read, research, and then do you storyboard a documentary?
You storyboard it when you go into the edit. Some people do. I mean, there's no prescription for making a documentary. It's just basically individual. And it's not like I don't even use the same method on each film. It just depends what the story is. Like a film like Jeff Buckley had a huge archive. So I started with that. I started trying to tell the story from his words, and then I found the spots that I wanted to include other voices in, and then I went out and shot them, and then I would come back and edit, and then that's like the process there.
And are you already building up a through line in your head?
I usually write a whole 20-page document before I start for my editor so that we can talk about the emotion in each moment, which, it's all about emotion for me in my storytelling. So,
yeah, I get that. I think that's what makes them extraordinary. The one that maybe lends itself so easily to that, obviously, is dogs. I thought, this is interesting. Doesn't fit into what I think of as your work, and here's that great depiction. But again, it's not just about dogs. It's about relationship. So it's inherently emotional.
Yeah, well.
How did you come to make that?
Dogs. Oh, my God. You said we're not allowed to talk about politics.
Well, you can.
Okay.
I'm just not going to engage on that.
The greatest trauma in my adult life over the past 10 years was November 5th, 2016. And I remember going to a party for the first female president and leaving the party with a bunch of people on a subway from Brooklyn to Manhattan, and nobody could look at each other because we were in shock at the election. And I was with my friend Heidi Ewing that night, who just did a film called Folk Tales that just came out this weekend about Norwegian mushing dogs and kids. It's amazing, actually. And at the end of the night, we were both like, I'm getting a puppy. We were in so much pain. And I had been talking to Glenn Zipper, who's an LA-based producer, about this idea about dog-human love stories. And there was this one image of a man who was holding his German Shepherd, I think it was a German Shepherd, in a lake because he was trying to help him with his arthritis. He was it was the most beautiful image. And we decided that we wanted to make a film about dogs. And I got so much joy out of that. And even though it was heavy, we saved a dog from Syria. We saved a dog who was literally, that was mine.
Was that a husky?
It was a beautiful husky named Zeus, who just died a few months ago, but had a really good life in Berlin as a result of that film and all of
being stuck there, basically.
Yes. So I'm actually working on a scripted film with one of the subjects of that film. It's a kind of I told you about this, actually. It's It's a story about a Christian and a Muslim that are in love, and they can't get married because they come from different faiths.
Yeah.
And so they have to change their lives because of it.
Sure.
And
I've seen a lot of that.
yeah, and she's now living independently in Germany, and he's in Syria. So it's like this very sad, forbidden love, essentially. But anyway, Dogs was the most successful thing I ever did.
Really?
Like 8 million people watched the first season. It was amazing. And at that time, 8 million people watching a documentary series was huge. Today, Netflix would say, oh, it only had 8 million views.
Really?
Yeah, it's gotten to that point.
Is that good?
No, it's terrible.
But is that a good sign for the industry that
no, it's
8 isn't enough because these days we're getting 20?
Because, like, how does that affect people like me and all of my community that want to make good films?
So you're not saying that the numbers are so much higher now for doc viewing?
No, they're saying like that's
in
we're
our
not going to
catalog.
renew that. We're not going to renew that because
it.
now shows make much more, or have more viewership or whatever. So it was a nice moment, like when you're making indie films that maybe 100,000 people saw, and then suddenly 8 million people see your film, and you're like, wow, this is cool. But now it's different. So
do you think about? Sorry, Amy. Do you think about the outcome when you're making the film?
Never.
You don't think about who's going to buy this.
Never.
What's the appeal going to be? Who's the audience going to be? Do you think about who the audience will be? I don't mean the numbers, but this will appeal to women. This will appeal to men of a certain age. Do you think about demographics?
Yeah, sometimes. So, like with Jeff Buckley, I knew that he had a cult following, and then I knew that a lot of people had no idea who he was besides Hallelujah. So I wanted to make a film that everyone could enjoy. But that's tricky because his like cult followers are very particular about their version of this Jeff Buckley story. So I wanted to like try to find a way. Hopefully it worked.
What's the essence of his short life that was so moving? He had great talent. And some people said he had, kind of level of genius talent. How much does the shortness of his life, the tragedy of his death, color the story and our appreciation of him?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. The summary is that he was born in Anaheim to an immigrant family. His mother was Panamanian. His father was Tim Buckley, who was a cult folk singer of the 60s and 70s. And he left the mother, who he married, but she was pregnant, and he left her pregnant and never came back. When she was 17 years old, she had Jeff, and he was a genius. He was a musical genius. And basically from the cradle to the end of his life, he was like defied every kind of genre and boundary. But as he got closer to chasing this musical dream, he was so confused by the legacy of his father. So it was like,
the personal legacy.
Yeah, he met him one time.
Not the musical legacy. Yeah.
So it was a real challenge for him. And I thought that would be a really interesting way to tell the story, is about a kid who had a complicated relationship with his mother, who was a single mother that tried her best, but she was young and they were kind of grown up together. And then the father who abandoned him, yet every time he went on a radio interview, he was being introduced as Tim Buckley's son. So like that's another like knife in the stomach.
Dagger continuously.
And then he made this album Grace that changed my life, like completely. The 90s were all about Nirvana and Soundgarden, like pounding, and I was right there in the front row doing all that. And then I heard this album and it was like, oh my God, it's okay to feel. It's like, it's beautiful. So for me, it was the question of how does this person who made one album and his legacy continues to grow. I mean, there's like 400 million followers of his on TikTok now. And he's like the biggest
now because,
legacy.
Well, by the way, with your movie, that's going to
it's going to grow. But I mean, he has a real cult following, much bigger than his father. So I wanted to tell his story. I love the music, and I got to know the people in his world, and I found a way to tell it that, I'm a single mom, as you know my son. And I really related to like the plight of being married to a musician and having to like use your own resources and try to figure things out and all that stuff. So
Yeah, there's a meme that I saw once. I think it was on, I don't know what, social media. And it was a little boy looking up at his mother, and he says, "Mommy, when I grow up, I want to be a musician." And she says, "Sweetheart, you can't do both."
Bada boom. Oh, sorry.
That was drumming.
That was a prompted
intentional drumming.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. But Jeff, that was one of his big plights, was like how to be a man. He really was working on that. He was so hard on himself because he was only 30,
So why was he so compelling to you? I mean, I get it. And I get that, first of all, one thing I notice about Jeff Buckley is there's something ethereal and beautiful about him, his presence. Beautiful man, kind of lost in his music. There was something really, I think, when we think about being mesmerized, there's something mesmerizing about him.
Right.
What was it about him as a storyteller that really appealed to you?
His lyrics in his songs are very deep. Like, he has a lyric that says, "She's the tear that hangs inside my soul forever." And one of the TikTok memes that you see will be like a teenage girl saying, "My boyfriend said I love you, but Jeff Buckley said he's the tear that stays inside my soul forever." And he just has this way of speaking to you that it's like all the way in. So that's how he was in his life too. In his interviews, he was a feminist in the 90s. Like, that was not a thing in the music scene, at least.
I grew up with classical music and opera singer's son, and that was my upbringing. But as soon as I kind of grew out of my own household and into the world I lived in, I started loving singer-songwriters. I remember, people that really moved me, James Taylor to this day, because of just what seems to be a humbleness of the man, humility, humbleness. I love, by the way, you'll appreciate this since I work with my son on this podcast. You work with your son, Spencer, on film. And I remember when he brought his son on stage with him. He was in the band, didn't know it was his son till the encore. And then they sat at two guitars. That was just gorgeous because of the relationship and the artistry. And John Mayer and various other people. There was a movie that really moved me about Bob Dylan, and I'm now
A Complete Unknown.
Thank you. I don't know why I forgot that title again, but what moved me about it again was lyrics, artistry, and purposeness, right? Purposefulness. The whole idea that they were telling something to a culture. They were telling a nation something about an experience. And that was the power to me of that movie. It kind of introduced me, opened my eyes to the power of American folk music. That they weren't just out there to earn a buck. They really needed to say something, which I think is you, obviously. That's clearly you're purpose-driven. There's meaning in everything you do.
Well, that's a huge compliment. I mean, for me, that film and I'm Still Here last year were my favorite films of the year, and maybe of like the last 5 years. I thought those two films just blew me away. But James Mangold really humanized Bob Dylan, and I watched it 3 times, and I actually hosted a screening at my house because I was just so blown away by Bob's incisiveness and like his spirit, and his instinct was so good. And like, that is the thing about storytelling, songwriting, I guess, any type of creative endeavor, is like knowing what is the right thing in that moment and trying to make it make sense. So yeah, I love it. And that's a great comparison and a compliment. And I also love James Taylor. I read Carly Simon's book. And I think I know why James has got a lot of humility. I mean, they were madly in love, and he had a huge heroin problem, and she still loves him to this day. But that, I think he really learned a life lesson, and that's great that he's working with his son. I think he's so talented.
Yeah, he is. I think he's iconic, beautiful. You made me think about the role that editing plays in a film, because while you're shooting, in a sense, you're editing because you're being selective on what you ask and what you focus the camera on. how closely involved are you in all the editing, and how big a part does that play in the story that you tell?
Yeah, well, it's all, the editing is the writing, and like it's all intermingled. And
The editing is the writing,
I
meaning?
mean, I could write a script, go shoot it, and it's what comes out on camera is what gets written in the edit bay. So it's a whole different level of writing.
Okay, yeah.
And so it's about emotion. It's about like what works. And we edited for over like 2.5 years. And it was...
This is on what, Jeff Buckley?
Yeah. And
2.5 years?
Yeah. And it was a really great process. I kind of started with, I worked with a number of different editors to get different things moving and focused in on those. And a lot of it was remote and a lot of that was in person. And it was really tricky to get it right. But eventually we did. And so, yeah.
So you're editing right till the last frame?
Oh, yeah. I'm still editing when I watch the movie. But
You are.
It's really unfortunate. I've got to just let it go.
Yeah, of course.
It's never over, Jeff Buckley.
That's true. What did that mean, by the way? What does it mean to you now in terms of the story that you tell through this movie?
Well, it comes from a lyric from Lover, You Should Have Come
figured.
Over. But it was really hard to title it. So eventually that just seemed like the right title, because I'm saying to him, it's never over, Jeff Buckley. I'm saying like, we're still here. It's like continues on. So that's really what it means. But also the production, we made a joke about it behind the scenes because it was like the longest production ever. So it's never over.
Which reminds me of great documentarians, Ken Burns, people like that, who famously, I don't know, how influenced you are by him, but people who would say that they would spend years and years and years until they were ready to say, okay, I have to now turn away.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, somebody who interviewed me last week said that he respected that I was not like Ken Burns, meaning that every film that I make has a totally unique kind of style and look, and like, kind of what you're going to, you kind of know who you're trusting with Ken in a different way. But I love Ken Burns. I love his work. And I do know what I trust what he's telling me because I love like his perspective or whatever and credibility. And with me, I just try to like find that visually through whatever story I'm telling. So,
Yeah.
and emotion's always the most important thing. And so that's how it works with the editors too, is just like really making sure that things land and more space and more air and like, sometimes it has to be faster, sometimes it has to be slower. But
Is that emotion?
Yes.
So is emotion is it?
It's pacing, it's cadence.
It
it's
is,
like
okay.
knowing when to like let things sit for a little bit and not try to answer it with another bite or whatever. So,
I see. Let the audience just sit with a moment and a thought and then ease them into the next.
Right. And then like towards the end of an edit is when you really start pulling things out. And that's where a lot of things get cut. So it's just once you finally get the story told in the way that it needs to be told, then it's just about what you don't need.
Yeah. It reminds me of opera. It reminds me of music, where it's sometimes the singer, sometimes it's a conductor, sometimes it's planned in advance in rehearsal, and sometimes it happens on the night that you'll hold a note and both of you know when to move forward back to tempo. Right. So there is this sense of it being alive and organic, not just this square thing. We rehearsed it this way, we're doing it this way.
Right. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And this is why I think you are going to like Jeff Buckley.
Yeah.
Because he does come from a vast array of musical influences. Like his favorite classical musician was Shostakovich. And we even put that in the film.
Yeah.
And his voice has an operatic range. Like
he has a huge range, right?
Yeah, like Carl Berger, who composed Grace, the album, he's this famous German composer, said that Jeff's voice, as he goes higher, it just keeps getting stronger and stronger. And he had never seen anything like that. And it's not male or female. It's just like open. So I think you'll like it.
I think so too.
Yeah. So, because I think that the film actually shows you the process of how he came up with ideas and performed them. So
Spencer, I mentioned your son.
Spencer.
He has a movie coming out.
Spencer.
How is, and I'm sitting with my son 2 feet to the left. What's that like, seeing your son follow your footsteps in his own way And how does it work? Mentoring him, staying out of his way, supporting him?
There is no easy answer to that. I mean, he is very talented. He is, sometimes I overstep, and he is very clear to, like, you know, push back, which I think is great. He has healthy boundaries with me. But this film that is coming out in October, the Wilderness movie, is very...
That's the title? Or okay.
Wilderness, it's called. It's very personal to us. And so I really trusted him to tell this story. He understands it very well. And I don't want to speak for him, but I'm just like so proud of him. It's a beautiful film. He works so well with actors. All the actors felt they were in such good hands. And it was, in a way, like a documentary, because they went out into the woods and they like spent a weekend together and really got the sense of what it's like to have to like do things, you know, like you would in wilderness therapy. So, but yeah, it's great to work with my son. But of course, you know, also very intense because we're both so passionate about our ideas and stuff. So anyway, he's made 2 films, and his next one is coming out in the spring, I guess. And now he's writing something else.
Oh, fantastic.
So, yeah, he's doing great.
Good. That's exciting.
Yeah,
I know
he'll be on
firsthand how exciting it is. And I know, having known your dad, whom I loved, and knowing and loving your mom, I know what it is to be the parent who's just so proud of your kid and getting to see your kid express themselves and grow in the world. And now you're the next generation watching Spencer having the same experience of him. It's amazing.
It's beautiful. And you bring up my dad, and this is one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately because I really wish he was here right now. But the thing, like, if you have regrets, I'm getting emotional already. I have some regrets about my dad because he used to always ask me about my work, and I would always say like, "Oh, Dad, I just want to have dinner with my family. Can't we talk about you and like what you're?" I would always try to like, and he wanted more. Always, he would always like call me in the middle of the day, like, "What are you doing? What's up?" And I would just be like, "Oh, Dad, I'm so busy. Can't we just like talk tonight at dinner?" And so that's the one thing that I have been taking from like aging, I guess, or whatever, or just like missing him, is just like, you know, give them what they want when they want it. You know,
my son will kick me from a distance, but so often I'll say, "How's work?" I'll say, "Can we talk about something else?" And I get, because he's living it and every day, all hours, but I just want an end to what his life, struggle, interest, success, all that is. So I get it. Yeah. We're all trying, I think, to try and get it right in that relationship. Yeah. And I think it takes... It's also humbling, right? Totally. Parenting. And we think it's humbling in the beginning. Well, that's the least humbling. Yeah, it says a lot. No, but when 20s. You're humbling an adult, and now you're going, okay, just find how to play your instrument in this in relation to theirs, and to be supportive and to be there for them in a way that's meaningful for them, and to get your needs met, because it's a relationship. It's not just in one direction. What do you... If you want to talk about it, what are some of the things you're looking to do next?
Well, I'm making another music doc about an artist named Chris Cornell, whose mother was Jewish. I know the name Chris Cornell. Soundgarden.
Oh, that's why. Oh, that's right.
He had a very operatic voice, actually, as well. And then I'm also doing the Syrian love story. So interfaith love story. That's what it's called.
Yeah, it is. Love story. I remember, absolutely remember our conversation. Of course. Yeah. And there's a lot of that in the world. And you know, I do a lot of interreligious dialogue.
I know.
Interreligious diplomacy, which is more than dialogue. Dialogue, I think, has value, but diplomacy is seeing if we can create something closer and better for people, always on the basis of shared values.
Right. Yeah. And if there was an absence of interfaith, we would look so different today that I feel like, I don't know, just it's sad to me that a Christian can't marry a Muslim in Lebanon, Syria, Israel.
Yeah.
As well.
I don't know. Well, I don't want to speak for a particular faith, but I believe that Muslims aren't allowed, according to their faith, to marry a non-Muslim.
No, but I mean, like, there's no person that's non-denominational in any of these countries. There might be in Israel, I don't know.
Right, you're saying on the basis of birth.
Yeah, so they couldn't, we tried, and there was like no rabbis, because you would marry an interfaith
I would
couple.
And do, right.
So, so that's the sad part of, many stories in that part of the world is that Christians are now being persecuted in Syria.
Of course.
So I don't know.
In Egypt and Syria, all over. Yeah, of course.
So it's really sad. So
yeah, Iraq. Well, we'll talk about that one day because it's close to my heart.
Off camera.
Yeah, off camera or maybe on because it's an important story to tell as well.
Well, I know nothing about it still, so when I get further in this story, I'll
definitely we could talk about it. It's Never Over. Jeff Buckley opens on August 8th.
Yes.
All over.
Yes.
When will people see it? People who can't get to theaters, when will it eventually make it to their home theater or screen?
Okay, there's no excuse. Go to the theater. It's good. But yes, it'll be in December on HBO in December, and it'll be in theaters starting August 8th.
Fantastic. I was so excited for you, and having heard and read the excitement about it, I just can't wait. I saw that you got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know what I've seen that gets 100%. That's amazing.
Deliver Us from Evil has it too. So.
Really?
Yeah. Sometimes it's not, the reviews aren't all out yet. That was just from Sundance. So
of
we'll
course.
See what happens.
Amy Berg, thank you so much for coming in. Thanks for your film. Thanks for your library of films that you put out for all of us to benefit from. I'm just grateful to you, greatly admiring of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
This season is produced and edited by Jonah Lee Paz. Content editing by Bronwyn Lee Paz. Musical theme by Amots Plesner. Logo art by Janice Rudnitsky. Graphic design by Gusta Lee Paz. Social media management by Morgan Shanahan and Sophie Bergeron. The Meaning Mindset with Rabbi Ron is hosted by Rabbi Ron Lee Paz. Find us wherever you find your podcasts.